So just for the online guys, if you want to join in and ask questions at any point, and the same for you guys in the room, for any questions you want to ask, then fire away. I'm happy to take questions as we go. So I've got 25 minutes. I've got too many slides for 25 minutes. It's fine. I'll rush through. No, I won't rush through. I'll take my time, but I will endeavor to get through them all. So I've got two slots here, one this morning and one tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, I want to talk to you about an accreditation scheme that IIMS is working on, has been working on for a number of years, and that is about driving standards up higher in the surveying profession. But today, I want to talk to you about the work that IIMS does. For those of you who are members in the room, obviously it's particularly relevant. For those of you who are thinking about membership or aren't members, I hope you'll find it valuable to see what is available to you, no matter if you're a member or not of our organisation, because there's plenty of resources that I would encourage you to take advantage of. One of the challenges over the last year, I think I probably referenced this the last time I was here in Baltimore. We'd had a dialogue with our landlord, who we share a building with, and he'd offered us the opportunity to buy the property that we are in. And I'll show you a picture of it in a minute. Those of you who haven't seen it, it's a 500-year-old manor house in an English town. I can't quite believe we are now literally a matter of weeks away from finalising that deal. And certainly, I think by the end of February, IIMS will own a rather fabulous piece of freehold in the UK. So this fulfilled the wish of the members who voted back in 2018 at the annual general meeting to try and find a permanent head office. It is very exciting for me that the no-brainer is this last point here, that our landlords will actually become our tenants. So they give us a 10-year guaranteed rent to occupy the space. So it's kind of a role reversal, but it is very exciting. That's it. That's where we work from. I won't bore you with all the details. My office is in the top left-hand corner. The Marine Surveying Academy, I'll talk about them in a minute, are on the top right. Castenbeck and our landlords on the bottom. It's a fabulous building, but it's an old building and we have some maintenance to do. So we kicked off a crowdfunding campaign. We invited our members to make donations. It doesn't matter how small. Somebody's given us £20, somebody's given us £5,000 and everything in between. To date, we've raised over £20,000. That money is going to go directly to renovating bits of the property. And in exchange for a generous donation, we will create this lovely little plaque, which will sit in the boardroom forevermore. So I think, I'm not sure how many people have made a donation, but a number have, and I'm very grateful to them. So for us, very exciting times. I'm going to just flash through a couple of head office key issues. Since I was here a year ago, IIMS is now paperless. It's taken 2.5 years as a project to complete. It's not been without challenges. We use something called Zoho Creator. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. Zoho is a drag and drop database. Slowly but surely, we've moved everything into that environment. We started with our education offering. That was the first to go about a year ago. We then had to move our certifying authority in there. And finally, our membership database. It's all now in the system. It's all paperless. It has increased our productivity no end. The process of producing a membership card for a member, you get the little plastic membership card for a year. That was laborious and horrible. Now, Cam, who's the membership secretary, sits there, presses a button, and it prints the card. So we made some real progress, and it's lovely to say we are paperless. I should say our accounts actually were the first to go paperless. We use a package called Xero, which you may know, and that went to paperless a couple of years ago. We've had to do some management board succession planning. I'll touch on that in a minute. Lorna has joined us. She runs our education, distance learning professional qualifications, and she also organises the events that we run. She books hotels, venues, and organises that kind of thing. Dave Parsons, who joined us a couple of years ago, we've promoted Dave to our Certifying Authority Administrator. I'll talk a bit more about the CA in a minute. And Holly joined us as Office Administrator. Office Administrator is a bit of a cover-all title. She does an awful lot of stuff. She's updating websites, she's running social media. And if you were to send it an email to info@iims.org.uk, it's Holly who will pick it up. And Jen Argent, who is my fabulous management accountant, told us she was off to have a baby. Well, generally in the UK, that means 9 months away or perhaps a year away on maternity leave. She was back within 7 weeks, having had her child. And I wasn't going to stop her coming back, but I did say, "Are you sure this is okay?" Yes, she said, "I need to come back to work." So we're thrilled to have Jen back in the business. touch a little bit on succession planning. It happens to every organization at some point. And Captain Bertrand Appareil from France, who is a past president, decided to stand down from the management board. John Noble stood down from the management board. John's been around for an awfully long time. John had other responsibilities. He was the chairman of the education committee. He was the chairman of administration as well, effectively my boss. So Jeff Waddington has taken over as chairman of administration. Jeff is the next president of IIMS. He will take up that role in June of this year. And we've added 3 new guys to the management board. Broad range of skills. Peter Broad, sorry about the pun. Peter is involved in building the next generation LNG ships out in South Korea. That's where he's based, although he's currently in Qatar working on design of ships, I think. Very exciting. David Pestridge is a yacht and small craft surveyor based in the southwest of the UK. He's young at 50. We like 50-year-olds. That's great. It's good to have one of those on board because the board is getting a bit old. And Sanjay Bashin. Sanjay's done some commercial ship work. He's also a maritime lawyer, so he's joined the board. For now, I'm going to chair the education committee. I'm hoping David Pestridge will step up. He doesn't know that yet, but I'll be letting him know soon that he'd make an excellent chairman of education. Briefly on our membership. It's very hard for any membership organisation in this day and age to grow, actually. Most membership organisations are not growing. Our membership is steady at 1,000. We had about 90 new applications last year for membership. We lost about 40 members. So, you know, there's a churn, so we're growing by a few members each year. That's good. Of the 40 who stepped down, I think half a dozen retired. Sadly, there were 4 or 5 deaths last year, and that just goes with this profession, with aging marine surveyors, and 1 or 2 people who simply resigned. We've taken a much firmer stance on suspending non-paying members. I think that's only right. If I don't pay my subscription at my tennis club, I don't play any tennis. It's simple, so I pay. It should be the same with us. And Jen has become much more adept at encouraging non-payers to pay us. We have 105 countries represented within IIMS. We've added a couple just recently. Our full members, which is the highest membership category, is at 600. We do an awful lot of below-the-line targeted advertising these days. You won't see IIMS advertising magazines or any print medium at all, actually. Things have changed. But it's, I have a data scientist. I mean, 10 years ago, a data scientist wasn't even a job title, or it wasn't in the UK. Maybe it was here, but it wasn't in the UK. So we have a data scientist who works for a below-the-line digital marketing agency in Portsmouth, close to where we are, and he's amazing. So he simply targets people. So if you are a master mariner, you're probably going to get an invitation at some point to have a look at IIMS through LinkedIn or through Facebook or whatever it may be, Google AdWords. Very successful. I make this point everywhere I go, anywhere in the world. We eyeball every application to join the organization. We don't accept everybody who sends us a check and says, here's my application form. We're only as good as our weakest member. And I was having a chat, in fact, we had a professional assessment committee meeting 2 weeks ago. And Chris Kelly, who's the chairman of that, said, the standard of applications, he said, is getting worse. And I said, well, can you clarify that? He said, well, people claim experience they simply don't have, which is fine, but it isn't fine. So, you know, we're only as good as the weakest member we have in the organization. So we look through those applications as objectively as we can. And that is our guarantee to people who end up using the website, finding a surveyor and engaging the surveyor, that we have done everything we can to objectively ensure that person is a good surveyor. And the specialisms or specializations we've granted to them are actually you know, legitimate, and that they can actually back them up with evidence. Just talk through briefly on some of the new membership benefits. Again, as any organization, if you're standing still, you're going backwards. IIMS is constantly striving to move to that next level. We've launched our first Marine Surveyor Search app. That's the 3rd app we've launched in total. This was pushed out in March, April last year. It's been very successful. If you're an active member of IIMS, you're automatically listed for free on that app. We've had about 500 downloads so far. It's early days, work to do, but it's an exciting project. We launched a safety briefings page. I was amazed at how many accident and incident reports there are published by American Coast Guard, by MAIB in the UK, by anywhere in the world. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of them, but you can't seem to find them easily in one place. So we set about compiling all of those into one place. There is a page on the website called Safety Briefings. You can access literally probably thousands now of incident and accident reports. And I would encourage you to do so. It's free. You don't have to be a member to access that information. We've been making some training podcasts. We've got about 60 audio files that are now available to download online. I was talking to one surveyor the other day, he said he downloaded them all. And I said, gosh, that's very keen. Well, he said, I'm just going to work my way through them whilst I'm traveling. So wonderful, it was music to my ears. We launched a copyright-free photo bank. That was in response to a member who got sued. He used a Getty image off the internet, put it onto his website, and was surprised when Getty sent him a bill for $2,000. And he said, what do I do? And I said, pay the bill. You're not going to get out of that one. You've downloaded someone else's material from the internet. You know, there's no way around it. And it got me thinking that we hold an awful lot of images. So we've now got 600 images on the website. You're welcome to crop them, rename them, resize them, do whatever you like with them. Use them any way you like. And at the very end of last year, we launched our first WhatsApp group. Now, this has been really interesting. My view is we didn't want a WhatsApp group with 1,000 members in because that's a bit pointless. I think this would work with small groups of like-minded surveyors. And we launched one for the guys who do inland waterways craft, that's narrowboats, if you know those, on the English canals. We've only got 30 of those surveyors in the UK. 20 of them decided to join the group, and they are chattering away on the group every day. And it was wonderful last week to see a surveyor, quite an experienced surveyor, he was on a narrowboat somewhere, and he said, I've never seen this before, and he uploaded a photo, and within 5 minutes he had 3 answers as to what he was looking at. So fabulous, and that's a really different type of networking. That's the first one. I'm eager to launch more, and I've simply said to anybody out in the world, if you think we can help, if you've got a group of surveyors who would benefit from something like that, then let us know. So that's work in progress. I referenced the Marine Surveyor Search app earlier. Let me just touch on it again. The next generation search tool, we partner with an organization. In fact, it's Ruchin Dial. He's a fellow of the Institute who happens to build apps as well as being a marine surveyor. A really bizarre combination, but he's quite remarkable. So he's built the 3 apps that we have. As I've said, if you're a practicing member and you will be listed on the app, we've changed the whole search criteria or the way you can search for a surveyor. We've literally just backed in the new search in the last week onto the website. So the website now matches the app. So there's a web application of the app, and you can search by country, by specialization. But the newest thing and the most interesting thing for me is that you can now search by port, harbor, marina. You tell us. You tell us what you want on your listing. So if you have 4 or 5 marinas that you're regularly in, and you want to tell people that's where you work from, you can do that. We're not going to put any block on that. From the screen, you can send an email and you can call the surveyor directly. We have a log. We know how many emails are being generated, how many calls are being made, and it's quite encouraging. And as I say, launched about 9 months ago, and downloads are coming through daily. You download it. It's a free app. You download it in the usual way through Google Play or through the App Store. Just a little bit about some of the branches. We don't have a formal branch in America. We might want to change that, James. But we do have half a dozen other formal branches which are run by local committee. So we have Canada, and we have a conference coming up in Canada on the 6th and 7th of March. India will celebrate its 10th anniversary in October of 2020. I think we're headed for Goa for a 2-day celebration over there. Always big events. We've got a lot of members in India, mostly commercial ship. There's hardly any small craft out there at all. And we generally get about 100 people pitching up for those events. So that's to look forward to. And I put this image in here. We just celebrated the UAE branch 10th anniversary in November. In Dubai, we were aboard the QE2, that fabulous old ship, which has been given a wonderful new lease of life, actually. It's a beautiful place, lovely venue. And we produced a 16-page supplement for Zuri and his team. We presented some awards. So it was a nice thing to do. And that attracted about 110 delegates. So again, it was a very good conference. One of the other apps in fact, the first app we launched was a continuing professional development, CPD app. And all of our CPD now is managed through that process. I'm hoping no one in the room is going to tell me it's difficult to use, because most people I meet say it's really simple to use. So you can sit there in the room today, you can log into the app and you can claim your 5 points real time. We do eyeball every application. Holly will do that. We had over 2,000 claims for CPD points last year, and 300 were rejected. I'm always asked, well, why rejected? Well, because no evidence was supplied. So there's an upload button. If you go to a boat show in Baltimore, take a selfie of yourself at the boat show, attach that as evidence. That's easy, then we can grant the point. If that's not supplied, then it's harder. We've added a date to the CPD badge, so now it tells people out in the wide world that you're compliant for 2020. Once that year comes to an end, we'll refresh that for 2021 and going forward. The IIMS professional qualifications, currently 180 enrolled in that program. We have 35 modules split between small craft and a commercial ship. Again, we target below the line to attract students. We encourage expressions of interest from them. Then we work with them to get them onto the course. We're quite fussy about who we take on the course. If you can't speak English, you won't get on the course. It's an English language course. If you can't use technology, you're going to struggle because it's distance learning. So we make people jump through those hoops. We've added online student tutorials and welcome seminars. We did a welcome seminar on Monday. We had 25 students online. Just get them together for an hour. They can talk to, we had 2 of the tutors online, one of the assessors. It's a chance for them to ask. Somebody said, well, how long should my assignment be? No right or wrong answer to that, really. As long as you answer the question, it could be 10,000 words, it could be 50,000 words. But they found that very useful. We're refreshing a lot of the content. We've just added a business management module. I think that's something that was definitely lacking. We have a new module coming on surveying super yachts. That's vessels over 24 meters, large yachts and these mega yachts that are now floating around. We've rewritten Unit 1, an introduction to the profession, simply to bring it up to date. And Unit 4, report writing, that's had quite a significant makeover. It's not because things are changing in report writing, they are changing in report writing. It's about, I was saying to somebody earlier, it might have been Ken, I was saying we are seeing in the UK more and more litigation caused because of poor report writing. So we're trying to work really hard with people in the industry, with insurers who see this trend, to try and get them to help us to understand what the surveyor is missing, and therefore to help them produce an even more effective report. I get far too many complaints about surveyors. You'll be pleased to hear none of them are in America. They're all complaints in the UK generally, 1 or 2 from Europe. I get 20 a year. They are time consuming for me to handle. We will always push back and defend the member. That is absolutely the first thing we could do. Sometimes you can't defend the member. If they've had a really bad day and they've missed something obvious, it's really, really hard. But we'll act as mediators. I've got a case going on at the moment. We're about to act as a mediator between the person complaining and the surveyor, but they are difficult. And as I've said, UK P9 insurers have noticed a sharp increase, so surveyors take note. We can and will take action if necessary. I absolutely hate suspending and wiping out members, because in some cases, you know, it hurts their opportunity to earn. But we didn't actually strike anybody out last year, but the year before we had to remove 1 person. 9 complaints about the same surveyor for me is too many. Yeah. Where? What are they? Generally, some of the reports are too long. They're not specific enough. There's too much waffle in them. I was saying to Ken, I saw a report on a 30-meter boat the other day that was 142 pages, stuffed full with photographs. You know, it's not a photo gallery. A report is a written document. Sure, put images in, but essentially, you know, you've got to use those words. Not being descriptive enough, just missing things. Poorly written, poor English, poor grammar. I reviewed one the other day, and on the first page of the report, there were 3 spelling errors. So if an insurer were to look at that, the first thing an insurer is going to say is, does this guy really know what he's doing? He can't even spell basic words. I don't think I want to read it anymore, this report. It's dismissed instantly. So I can't say there's one particular theme. There are a lot of different themes, but I was saying to Ken earlier again, it's not actually a lack of technical knowledge. Most surveyors have plenty of technical knowledge. It's that ability to write down what they've actually seen in their report that generally gets them into a problem. I think there's only 2 in the last year I've not been able to defend. One guy, Mr. Rotten Transon, just missed it. We can't really defend that. And the other guy copy and pasted the stuff from a wrong report into another report. Oops, wrong vessel. You can't defend that either. And in that case, I suggested to him the best course of action was to refund his fund. His fee was £500 or something, and he said, yeah, fine. He did, and he walked away. But I will give one current example. It's live. Won't name the surveyor. He went to survey a boat in the cabin at the bow of the vessel. It was only a small vessel. It was a heavy mattress. And he couldn't lift the heavy mattress, too heavy for one person to lift. He reported, or issued his report. The guys bought the boat. They turned the mattress over having bought the boat. And there were 4 mattress buttons that were rusty. 4 mattress buttons that were rusty. And they are claiming £1,000 back from the surveyor because he failed to notice it. Now, I just think that's, could the surveyor have done more? Possibly, but how many caveats do you put in your survey report? Because you're going to end up with 20 pages of caveats saying this is what I didn't look at and this is what I'm not doing, and 5 pages of what you actually did do. So it's very, very difficult. I suspect he will win. But, that's challenging, isn't it? It's crazy, really. Yeah. I just want to give you an idea of some of the training we do. We're here in Baltimore, fantastic. We're doing an online report writing seminar. I run that with Paul Homan, who's our chairman of standards. He's a very experienced small craft surveyor. We do a 3-hour session online. Next one is in February. We generally get about 30 people on that. We're off to Vancouver for this big conference in 6 weeks' time. We do an annual tonnage training. The rules have changed in the UK with tonnage. So we never had a contract with the MCA, the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, as an approved tonnage provider or training organization. In September of last year, they invited us to sign a new agreement, which actually gives us permission, or license if you like, to go and do tonnages on vessels over 24 meters. We've never had that privilege before, so we were excited to sign this piece of paper. In there was a clause, a very specific clause that says only organizations that are recognized by the MCA may train tonnage surveyors, and you need to have your material approved. So they'd issued the contract and then effectively stopped us doing any tonnage, which I don't think was quite their intention. After a fairly amiable meeting with the MCA, I said, here's our training material. I said, you need to have a look at it and let us know. They did come back within about 4 days and said, spot on, perfect. So we do a day of theory, half a day of theory. We talk through how the tonnage works, what you need to know, and then we get on boats in the afternoon. We did 4 last year. We measured a couple of sailboats, a motor yacht, and a rib. And interesting, when you all get back into the classroom and you debrief at the end, everyone has different results. But, tonnages, as we know, is not an exact science. But we're doing another tonnage day. We're going to take guys over to Island Ribs and see how ribs are manufactured. That's on the Isle of Wight. 10 guys going to get the chance to go and do that. Annually, we've been going out to Palma in Mallorca for the Western Mediterranean 2-day event. That's a great event. We have about 20, 25 people. Last year, really successful. We did something we've never done before. We did a sea trial. So we persuaded the owner of a floating gin palace, some great big Italian 80-foot boat, to take us out at 35 knots across Palma Bay. And the guys were in there doing a sea trial in the engine room. It was really interesting. And when I spoke to them afterwards, they all said the same thing. We're generally in there on our own. We're not in there with a bunch of other surveyors. We're not able to have a dialogue about what we're seeing and what we're hearing. So they found that particularly interesting. So I'd like to do more of that. Certifying authority, I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute, but we do some practical training with our CA guys. We have 40 of those within the organization who are approved to do coding examinations. We formed an inland waterways working group. I referenced them earlier. There's only 30 of them. They do canal narrowboats, mostly steel hull. So we get into a yard twice a year and get underneath hulls, smack them, play with them, look at rust and that type of thing. So that's all good fun. We have a stand at a show called Seawork, which is in Southampton in June every year. We run a half-day event there. We get together with all the other surveying organisations in the UK. We put on a forum on the Wednesday afternoon. That generally attracts 100 people. A whole range of different topics, and always good fun and always a good day. Second half of this year, we're out to Dublin. We went to Ireland at the start of last year. It was outrageously successful. 10 years since anyone's been to Dublin to do any training, and they were hungry for knowledge. So we'll be going back. We'll do another certifying authority day. Then we're going to Malta. First time we've been out to the Eastern Med to run a couple of days training out there. There's quite a big demand out there. We have quite a lot of members in that area. We'll follow up with a second inland waterways day. We have a LYSCWG, stands for Large Yacht and Small Craft Working Group. That's quite a big day we do in Portsmouth every year. We repeat that up in Glasgow, much smaller audience, but go up and work with our Scottish surveyors. And then I launched this crazy thing called Marine Surveying Fest in 2018. This was a rolling 24/7, 24 presentations, one on the hour every hour, and that's been actually really well supported. So the third fest will be coming around in November, December this year. We've split it into two now because I thought actually if you're a small craft surveyor, you're not interested in the 12 presentations about commercial ship. So we now have 12 hours for one and 12 hours for the other. They're on not consecutive days. We have a day in the middle just to give us a bit of a breather. But great content. That will all be available by the middle of this year. We'll release that on YouTube and it'll be free content to view. Briefly on a certifying authority, 6 CAs in the UK. We're all licensed under contract by the MCA. So if you are a commercial boat operator up to 24 meters, you must have a coding license by law. We are not the biggest. The biggest is YDSA. They've got about 1,800 boats in their fleet. We have a smaller fleet of about 300. I touched on the tonnage agreement. And one of the things I've been working on, I will touch on this again a little later, is leveling the playing field. We're working on developing a certification scheme for coding examiners. I'll touch on that. And I continue my work as chair of the Professional Standards Working Group, which is something I'm now into my 4th year of doing. That presents huge challenges, but is a great piece of work to do. Report magazine, I brought a copy for you. So there's a copy of the most recent report magazine there. Biggest ever we've produced, 108 pages, absolute labor of love. Those of you who know me know it's my favorite job. I love it. It's 30 years of being a publisher in my previous life. So I have great fun putting that together. It's freely available for anyone to read. You don't have to be a member to read that. You can access it and download it from the web, either as in PDF format or as an e-reader format. So I'd encourage you to look out for that. It's published quarterly. Next one will be out on the 1st of March. Handy guides. I brought 3 examples up on the table there. We're up to 21 of these now, and the series continues to grow. We just launched one on surveying FRP and GRP craft. We are about to launch one on surveying ribs. That's coming out, well, I was proofing it on the plane actually yesterday, so that'll be out in the next week or 10 days. They're now available in e-reader format. We sell a steady amount. In most days we have a book order or 2. We've tried to price them realistically. They're priced between $20 and $40 roughly. Got a book on anodes. I didn't know you could write so much on anodes. Someone's written 60,000 words on anodes. It's going to be an absolute monster book. Anyway, I think it might be a rather boring subject, that one, but maybe it's essential. So keep an eye out for handy guides. A little bit on social media and the communication stuff. We continue to produce our monthly PDF news bulletin. Looks a bit like that one, which is the January one. I think we might have put one in your packs. I can't remember. If we haven't, again, that's available online. 50% of members open it, 50% don't. It's the same 50% who open it as the 50% who don't, which I find particularly frustrating, but that's about engagement, I guess. We post regularly on Twitter. Twitter's not my favorite medium at all, but LinkedIn, I do put a lot of store by LinkedIn. We are nudging 5,000 followers on LinkedIn. It is absolutely the biggest online following of marine surveyors. If you don't follow us on LinkedIn, I would recommend you do. YouTube subscribers now 614. That seems to grow monthly, and we have made about 202 videos, I think, currently online on the YouTube channel. Those are freely available. In fact, some of the content we've made in Baltimore before is on there, and I'm sure these videos that we'll make now will end up on there too. I wanted just to tell you very briefly about some of the media exposure we've gained in the last year. There have been 3 press releases we launched throughout the year. The first was the Marine Surveyor Search app. That got featured in 20 publications around the world and on various websites. There was fantastic traction on that. I was out in Brisbane last year, the first time I'd been to Australia for 4 years, and we had 60, 65 people on the east coast of Australia, and that event was widely covered in the boating and maritime press out there. That was a fabulous event. And then Jeff Waddington, as I mentioned Jeff earlier, is chairman of administration and the next president. He is very, very concerned about known faults or known defects that exist on yachts, particularly yachts. And if I were to tell you what they were, you would say, oh, yes, I know that fault. So they're out there, but the buyer doesn't seem to know. And Jeff wrote, with my help, an open letter, which we published. In fact, it got published all over the place. And I got an awful lot of positive feedback from people saying, you are absolutely right. It's time that manufacturers woke up to their responsibility. I'm sure it's the same in America. If you buy a washing machine and it goes wrong, the manufacturer issues a recall and they'll sort you out and make sure the problem is dealt with. With boats, it doesn't seem to happen. And there are particular brands of boats that have known faults in them, and surveyors know what those faults are. I wanted to publish a list of them, was warned off by the lawyers, so that's probably not a good idea, Mike. So I backed off from doing that, but I do encourage surveyors to share this stuff. So that really was a bit of a thought-provoking press release we put out. Use the website is all I can say. It is the absolute biggest resource you'll find anywhere on marine surveying. Absolutely free to use. There's one or two areas you can't get to unless you're a member. But we've had over 750,000 members since we launched it 4 years back ago, whatever it was. We average over 15,000 unique visitors a month. They spend 2 minutes online, which in web speak is huge. You know, most people are in and out of a website within 5 or 10 seconds. So we have a lot of traction on there. There's some amazing content. It really is rich, and we refresh that content most days. So there's new stuff going up there. So go and have a look. IIMS.org.uk will find it. Just want to talk very briefly about some of the external involvements we get involved with. Again, I mean, part of my time, I get pulled in all sorts of directions, and I'm therefore very grateful to my support team who take care of business and so on. I'm involved in other things, but we got involved in putting a submission together for AMSA, the Australian maritime regulator. There was a state or government inquiry into how AMSA is being run. We had quite a lot to say about how AMSA is being run. We put the submission in, that led to some press interviews, which were quite daunting. And then we were invited to actually give our submission to the court hearing, which we did back in June or July now. To be honest, we've heard nothing about where that's going, but they have some major issues in Australia. I won't bore you with it, but the nub of it is they have a fleet of 7,000 vessels that need to be examined every year. And they created a national scheme. It used to be able to go state by state. They created an international scheme, and they forgot to actually approve any surveyors to go and do the examinations. So it's caused a right old ruction out there. We sit on the MCA's Technical Interpretation Forum. We have 2 seats on that group that meet regularly, and they are looking at safety issues from a technical aspect all the time, so we're feeding into there. We launched an apprenticeship scheme last year in marine surveying. It's called a Trailblazer apprenticeship scheme. It's through the UK government. You can only sadly come through it in the UK. You can't actually tackle it elsewhere, although you could go and live in the UK and do it. It's a 4-year apprenticeship scheme. It is funded by the government. They put money behind it. If I have 2 reservations about the scheme, it is simply that I don't know there's enough volume of people wanting to be a marine surveyor who are going to come through an apprenticeship scheme every year. I think the numbers will be low. And I'm not entirely sure who is actually going to recruit those people. The MCA potentially might recruit them. I could see P&I clubs possibly recruiting a few, but I don't think there are many job opportunities. So I think it has limited appeal. I've touched on the Small Craft Surveyors Forum, and I've touched also on our closer working relationship. And then we're working with the diagnostic engineers to develop a turnaround plan for them. And I've got a meeting with them coming up. 40-year-old organisation that's hit hard times. And I think we will probably end up taking them over and running their business for them. Right, just want to flash through, because I'm over time, a little bit on the Marine Surveying Academy, the wholly owned subsidiary of IIMS. This is where I call it the dirty work goes on. This is the work we can't put through the membership part of the business. There are 3 standards that we currently have. They are all very, very niche, but we're proud to be organising and managing and running them all. The first one is called IIMS, International Register of Marine Installation Inspectors. These are guys looking at flow line pipe corrosion. It's very niche. 5-year-old scheme. It was dormant after the oil price crash a few years ago now. It's just coming back into life, so we're reaccrediting people after 5 years. We've got 100 qualified inspectors. To become qualified, they need to do a week-long course and sit a formal exam, so it's a pretty tough call. Only the good people get through. We have, I'm sure you know Van Ord is a name you'll know. We have a course running next week, an in-house course for 12 Van Ord people, and we're expecting to go and run a course, in-house course for all Cs. And then we have 3 further open courses. As I say, it's quite niche. We've been around the world with it, but there are people who need to know this stuff. We've had great success with the Registered Marine Coatings Inspectors standard, and this is now actually written into the new ISO, which I'm really quite proud about. So we kicked this off about 5 years ago as well. This is also coming up for 5-year reaccreditation. And it was all to do with upskilling those people who go and look at complex super yacht coating systems. And I'm told some of these vessels now have 14 coats of paint applied, and people want them shiny, and they want them glossy, and they want them in pearlescent colors, and all the rest of it, gold and silver. All of those are huge challenges for the coatings companies. And things were going wrong. 50% of those vessels were coming out of the yards with a later problem because of the quality of the paint job. So there's 120 who've gained that accreditation. We have just started to say, putting another bunch through, and we're running 2 programs this year. We are bringing a course to America, if any of you are involved in that. I expect to be doing something down in Florida later this year, so if that's of interest to you, let us know. The final scheme we're involved with is the eCMID AVI scheme. If you don't know CMID, Common Marine Inspection Document, it's something that's used in the offshore auditing sector. It's not a survey, it is an audit of a vessel. And this was all to do with helping IMCA, the International Marine Contractors Association, to clean up the unregulated offshore inspection sector. People were getting on board vessels, highly specialist vessels, a jackup, for example, and nobody had a clue who those people were. They didn't know if they were competent to get on board that vessel, to look at it, to assess it, and to audit it. So with IMCA's help, we've now brought 600 people through the process. Actually 460, that's an out-of-date figure, it's about 505 have now been recognized. As part of that objective process, you also have to do a 1-day training course. We've run 30 of those all over the world, and we ran a couple of seminars last year. We're doing 3 this year. So it's a nice piece of work for us, and it's something we're very proud to have within our portfolio. Right, I've overrun my time. I don't know if anyone's got any questions. Anybody? I'm here for 2 days, so be sure to grab me and ask anything that you want.